Our next letter in races is C. C stands for citing evidence. Okay, make sure that with each question that you answer, you provide evidence. If you can support your answer with the text, the class material, or a credible outside source, it makes your answer stronger. It shows that you really know what you're talking about. It helps you double check to make sure that you are answering a question correctly. And if it's the case of an opinion, it makes your argument really, really strong. This is the part of the essay where you're answering the questions of, how do I know this? Why do I believe this? And if you use an outside source, you have to name your source. So if you go on the internet and you try to find a source, include that source. That's going to make your argument stronger. Okay, so I am going to complete a lot of the rest of this graphic organizer with the DC versus Marvel argument. Okay, so in my opinion, that was restating the question. Answering the question, I said the Marvel Cinematic Universe is more superior than the DC comic universe. That's how I felt. All right, that's how I answered the question. And now for citing evidence, I took to the internet and I found Marvel movies are more successful in the box office. In fact, they have earned the title of the highest grossing superhero movie of all time in 2012 with the first Avengers movie. They also hold the second, third, and fourth place titles for Avengers Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3, and Captain America Civil War. I cited evidence. I found an outside source. I found some facts, and I supported the answer to my question. If it's a narrative or descriptive essay, it's not like you can go to the internet and find a source about your own life. We're not asking you to reference old diaries or anything. That would be silly. If you might not have sources or evidence for a narrative essay, but you still have to answer the questions and cite the evidence of how do I know this or why do I believe this? So the example that I used was, the most interesting summer of my life was when I turned 11. It all started on my 11th birthday when I found out that I was a wizard and my life turned upside down. That same day, I also discovered that I had been accepted into a magical school. I also found out that I defeated the darkest wizard of all time when I was a baby. Okay, so that's Harry Potter, right? Harry knew that the summer when he turned 11 was the most interesting of his life because of all this stuff. He's answering the why do I know this or why do I believe this? One thing I want you to be really careful about is double checking your outside sources. So I want you to check the date of the article and make sure that is a credible source. And perfectly enough, I actually ended up using a not so great source, and it's a good teachable moment. So my original answer that I've already read to you guys was, in my opinion, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is more superior than the DC comic universe. And the reason the evidence that I had to support that was they were the highest grossing superhero movie of all time in 2012 with the first Avengers movie. They also hold the second, third, and fourth place for Avengers, Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3, and Captain America Civil War. I found it on infographics.com, which looked okay, but then I was thinking, you know what, that's not really a well-known, reputable source. So let me keep looking. What is the third reason? So when I checked with the Internet Movie Database, I was actually wrong. So Avengers, the first Avengers movie, is not the highest grossing. And Avengers Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3, and Captain America are not the second, third, and fourth highest grossing superhero movies of all time. In fact, I found, when I looked at the Internet Movie Database, a more reputable source, that the movie Black Panther had earned the title of the highest grossing superhero movie of all time. And Marvel doesn't hold the second, third, and fourth. They only hold the second and third. The fourth highest grossing movie of all time was The Incredibles 2. So it was actually, Marvel also holds the second and third place titles for Avengers Infinity War and The Avengers 2012. So if I hadn't double checked my source or my information or my facts, I would have been wrong. And I have the Credible Hulk here. gross. And now going back to my graphic organizer, I'm adding the answer to my question. Okay, so in my graphic organizer, I'm typing the evidence to my answer to my question. Now my evidence is included in my graphic organizer. Cool. So now we're ready to move on with E. So we've already restated our question, we've already answered our question, and we've already cited evidence, answering how or why we know something. Now we're moving on to E. And E stands for explain your answer. Okay, your explanation should answer why and or how. Begin with something like this shows that, because we're talking about the evidence, right? We just cited evidence. So we're going to expand on that. We want to use some keywords from the citation, and we want to explain fully using because, and then filling in the rest of that answer. You should reuse the main idea with some new wording and make sure all parts connect. So, moving on with my persuasive essay on DC versus Marvel, I've come up with these explanations. In my opinion, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is more superior than the DC Comics Cinematic Universe. Marvel movies are more successful in the box office and earn more money than DC movies. According to the Internet Movie Database, the movie Black Panther has earned the title of the highest-grossing superhero movie of all time. Marvel also holds the second and third place titles for Avengers Infinity War from 2018 and The Avengers in 2012. And then the explanation I gave is, overall, I think that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is more popular because the characters are more relatable, the storyline is more developed, and Marvel is better at balancing humor with dark subjects. That's just what I think. So I've already said, yes, in fact, they are more successful, which makes them superior. And then here I'm explaining the why. I'm explaining the because. And I have 3 main points I sort of came up with of why I think that they're more superior. I think that the characters are more relatable. The storyline is more developed because the Marvel has lots of different movies. You have the Iron Man movies, you have a couple different Thors, you have a couple different Captain Americas. And then I believe that they're better at balancing humor with dark subjects. A lot of DC movies can be a little bit too dark, like The Dark Knight, or DC movies just tend to be a little bit more sad or harder to take kids to. So you can't always take a little kid to see The Dark Knight. So that was kind of what I came up with. We've done RACE, and now it's time to move on to S. S stands for summarize your argument. So your summary should try to say your whole point in one sentence. It should start with a concluding transition such as, in conclusion, while some people may think, in my opinion, overall, and you can recycle words from the prompt to help you answer the rest of it. Now, these concluding transitions, this is definitely not all of the concluding transitions that you can use. So if you don't like any of these, keep looking. You can also include a because statement that recaps what you just proved. Okay, so here I go. I've got all my colors now. In my opinion, restated it. Marvel Cinematic Universe is more superior. Check. I got my information from the Internet Movie Database. Check. I already gave my explanation. Now I'm going to do my summary statement. Overall, I believe the movies in the Marvel Universe are more relatable, developed, and accessible to all ages, which makes them more successful and entertaining than the DC Universe.